Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I want to highlight a replay against one of the strongest ladder players at the moment. This guy is sitting at about 2.3 and sometimes close to 2.4k MMR, and I think it's going to be an exciting replay for you guys. Now, having a look at my packs here, I do have the elite spec, but it doesn't necessarily look like a good one to me. No chaff in there, so yeah, not really something I want to pick. Instead, I'm going to opt to go for steel balls with the crawlers. I think steel balls are still very powerful, even though they did receive a bit of an EXP level up requirement nerf. But yeah, still really good matchups in the early game, and you can definitely snowball this. However, just take a look at my opponent's starter here. Quick supply Saber Fang into double Tarantula on round 1. That is quite the scary prospect to face, and yeah, we'll have to see if we could get through this early game. I don't expect to win round 1 by any means. That would be somewhat crazy, but yeah, let's see if we can stabilize. We are aerial specialists, and what I'm planning to do here is play some Wraith. Now, my opponent has spiders, and spiders are notorious to be like one of the strongest headbutt units. Even after the nerfs, if you get to range and HE, it just clears so efficiently and so quickly that there's not many units that can keep up. But the one unit that can is a Wraith. And honestly, I've seen a lot of people play the Wraith in high MMR recently. Wraith Ball seems to be making a bit of a comeback, and it's been a lot of fun trying it out. So that's really what we're going to try and set up here. I'm going to be pushing right side, which happens to be a crossfire. Opponent here is setting up on the left. And I do decide to pick up at least one Arclight for the early game. I am planning to buy a Wraith on round 2, but it's just nice to give yourself at least a little bit of a chance on round 1 and have some form of chaff clear. The other option you could have is just buy Fangs and not care too much. But yeah, I try to go for a variant here where I just get another crawler pack, and I buy one Arclight. We will get the tower debuff. As you can see, one spider will be aiming for my tower as well, though. And since we didn't have an Arclight in the middle there, it looks like this steel ball pack isn't going to be too happy. Now, maybe we can lock on and kill a couple of these sabers and spiders. I'd be happy if I can kill 2. Tower will go down, but it looks like we do get the lock on there, so the steel ball will start ramping up during the debuff. And maybe, just maybe, we can take out one more. Oh, doesn't look like it. And so 3 200 costs alive there. That mean I'm going to take 600, a little bit more, 700 damage, as there were some Fangs left alive as well. Painful round 1 there. Round 2, we don't get anything too exciting. Missile Strike is available though. Could be worth picking up. There's also an anti-interference module and a photon coating though, which photon coating could be nice on steel balls. Anti-interference module sometimes can be powerful on something like a Wraith. It does, in these crossfire scenarios, create a unit that doesn't care about the debuff. And so that's kind of something I was thinking about. It's rather cheap, and it doesn't mess up my round in any way. I will still have 400 resources left, and I'll be able to pick up a Wraith plus a Chaff unit, probably a Crawler, if I so desire. Could even pick up an Arclight in the middle as well. Seems like I do take my time, but yeah, there we go. Anti-interference module picked up. Opponent will go for the missile strike. Just try and kill these crawlers, soften up my steel balls as well. And here we go. Wraith has been purchased. Now, what I like to do is what you see here is I put the steel balls 1 or 2 squares from the line on round 1. And that means that on round 2, I'll have space for a Wraith in front. And even though this looks a little bit tricky with the Wraith being on the line, it's actually quite tough for my opponent to insta-lock this, because I will add these crawlers here on the flank, and I can add another piece of chaff on the left. And because of the way that these flanks will work, this corner unit, even though it's on the line, is going to be impossible to insta-lock. And the reason, by the way, why I'm pairing up the right side is I don't really want to get caught up in the mid fight here, right? Or in the fight on the left side. My opponent has so many units on the left, it's going to be hard for me to even try and contest it. So rather than doing that, I am going to try and threaten his tower on the right. I do have steel balls. I do have the advantage of just higher speed on my units, and that should allow me to just get a debuff quicker, right? Even if he does level his tower, my steel balls should be able to take it down. Sadly, though, we do not manage to get rid of the fangs. I maybe should have tried to put an arc light on the left to kill the fang pack, because I think this is something I could have tried to play around, and that way we would have saved ourselves some hit points. Can speed this up. Wraith, sadly, will go down, and that's another 800 damage from the looks of it. A little bit more still. So, first 2 rounds, bit of a disaster. I went from 4.8 to 3.2k hit points. Just like that, and now disaster strikes. Round 3, double level 3 marksman shows up, Phoenix shows up, and Phantom Ray shows up. All counters to the Wraith I just purchased. I definitely was not happy with this, but I mean, what can I do, right? I don't think it's viable for me to pivot out of Wraith here, because I don't have any chaff clear otherwise. Maybe I could go Fire Badger, but I don't really see how I would make that transition work. And so I'm just going to decide to double down here. I'm probably just going to pick either Phoenix or Phantom Ray and try to play with that unit. It does give me some good DPS. Maybe this will be able to take out some of these tanky units, the level 1 spiders, the sabers. And we'll just have to see if we can pull this off. But yeah, opponent does run aerial specialization, so the Wraith might struggle here. I finally decide to put some units on the left because that debuff was hurting somewhat, and I'm hoping to get into tower here quick enough to be able to get that debuff. Even though it's leveled, it's still 7 seconds of debuff, and then during that debuff, hopefully this pack of units can start to work away at my opponent's main army. Looks like he is putting a crawler on the flank as well, so still willing to attack, and I think this is one of the best ways to try and play the crossfire, right? If you heavily committed on one side, it's going to be tough to mirror the commitment from your opponent, so just try and pressure the tower. Especially if you have steel balls, you know that you can DPS down that tower, and you should be able to come out ahead, right? As long as you level your tower as well, something like spiders won't be able to threaten quite as meaningfully. Phoenix here, though, sadly did get caught. The Wraith died early to the marksman, so we weren't able to make use of the debuff all that well. Steel balls are still going to have quite a lot of impact here, though, and there's not too many chaff clear units there, so the crawlers are tanking quite nicely. Sadly, though, we managed to clear out most units, but the marksman will still prevail, and we take a little bit more damage. Heavy armor offered there, and both of us do pick it up. I think there was a smoke maybe available as well, but I thought my opponent would shield or something, and not sure how valuable it really would be. Instead, we're going to pick up that armor, throw it onto the Wraith. The other one has that anti-interference module, and we decide to pick up range right away because we need to stay away from these marksmen as much as we can. Because if we don't, then we don't have any chaff clear, and, well, that is a disaster. Level here is available on the steel balls. Could be nice. I'm opting to go for a mobile beacon now because my opponent is pulling my units towards the side, and I really want to get to that tower as fast as I can. Quite an expensive turn, though. Only 350 left. And I might want to have to deal with this crawler. We'll have to see. Opponent, by the looks of it, went for Tarantula range. Also does level the Saber. Gives that a heavy armor. 57k hit points. That's quite tanky. And also does pick up a level on the marksman. I think apart from that, he's building on his chaff backline and trying to overwhelm the left side of my board. I do pick up one arc light. It's cheaper than a Wraith, and it should be able to help out with this crawler on the side. And then I pick up another crawler as well. Just trying to make sure that there might be something for the marksman to shoot at instead of this Wraith. Steel balls in the middle are still a little bit homeless, I will say. They don't really have any backup from the Wraith, but already things are looking much better as the chaff is distracting, and that Wraith did not die instantly because it has the additional range. We also get the tower much faster this time, so the Phoenixes lock on, and just look at that. Those level 1 spiders, level 1 sabers do not stand a chance. My Wraith is doing a great job of clearing so far. That marksman, even though it's high level, doesn't have AA, so the Wraith survives for more than long enough. We'll be starting to work away at those Phoenixes, and it might just level again. It does. Level 5 marksman in the making. Scary prospect, but at least we have finally managed to strike back and stop the bleeding because, yeah, we were hurting in those first rounds. Already losing 2k hit points. Now, round number 5, we get haste module available. Opponent picks up the super supply, which is, I mean, it's a good safety net, but I'm not entirely sure about it picking it up on round 5. We'll have to see. That'll start paying off in 2 turns from now. So round 6 and 7 will be spent paying back for it. Round 8 is when he'll make 150 every round. Instead, I go for the tempo play. I pick up the haste mod, buy another Wraith. Nice item for it. Cheap item too, with good stats, right? Bonus attack is always nice on Wraith. And this will help my steel ball back in the middle that was kind of struggling so far. Missile strike is back off cooldown. Looks like both of us here going for the sticky oil bomb. And opponent does click the aerial specialization now, which gives them 30 meters of prioritization against air units. And that's the tech I was really scared about. So we'll have to see, is this going to immediately shut us down? I also do add a Phoenix on the left. Hopefully that'll be able to lock onto this Tarantula on the far side. And then we add more Phoenixes in the middle as well, just for some additional DPS, because that board is starting to look quite tanky indeed. Marksman on the right side from my opponent too. We do click temp speed here, by the way. Quite important to do, because I want to get into the tower as fast as I can, especially when I have to push through the oil like I have to here. And, well, that level 1 marksman doesn't look too scary. We will be taking it down. Steel balls lock onto the tower. The chaff is gone, but it looks like it has managed to survive for long enough that I at least have 1 Wraith left alive on that side. Now we're pushing in. Phoenix here should be able to take out another marksman. Question is, will we be able to get to this backline marksman? Level 5 anti-air, level 3 over here as well. But steel balls are making their way over, and from the looks of it, they might just level again. And this is such a classic for steel balls. As a lot of you may know or have experienced, it's just the 1 pack usually. Like 1 pack of steel balls levels, maybe the opponent gets an item on it or you do, and it just becomes this unkillable monster. No item on it yet though, but it is starting to rack up some levels and doing really well taking that tower. And we managed to pick up another round. Not too much damage, but we'll definitely take a round win here. Wraith also starting to level now. That's fantastic. Such a nice unit to get levels on. Super heavy armor. Well, there we go. I was just talking about those items, and this is one of the best ones for steel ball specifically. It's just insane to be able to get 150% additional hit points on these 4 separate targets. It's very, very hard to deal with for almost any board, and kind of requires a high-level Scorpion just to deal with 1 unteched unit. Middle pack, by the way, also performed decently well. Finally got a level up. And of course, we will give the levels to these right side units. Opponent now opting to go for HE on the Tarantulas, which means that he will have the full array of kind of the techs he would want on that unit. Will allow him to chaff clear very, very fast. And we'll have to see if that will allow him to get to my air units faster. Another marksman picked up in the middle as well. We are now starting to pick up some wasps because my opponent doesn't really have a good counter to it. And hopefully that'll be able to soak some shots from the marksman, buy that little extra time for us to get into the tower, get the debuff, and then profit off of the 7 seconds of debuff. I'm also opting to put down a missile here. The idea was that the fangs would walk forward, and then hopefully by the time they trigger the missile, the crawlers would be next to them so I can get rid of 2 chaff packs. It can sometimes be worth doing something like that. Although I now see that the fangs, half of them were in the oil, so it doesn't quite pan out as I would have hoped. Steel ball locked on there onto that saber. Sadly, it will die, but not without dealing half of its damage, or half its hit points first. And look at these wasps. Absolutely lovely play there. Really happy with how that turned out. Distracting those marksmen. Now we get the debuff, and even though the Wraith is locked on, it's able to chaff clear for the Phoenixes before it goes down. And that should allow us to get another round here. A little bit more damage than we did the previous turn. And Phoenixes should be able to grab some levels here as we feast on the high-level marksman. Really good round. Steel balls just unfazed, really. They don't seem to care too much about anything. And now my opponent is down to 1800 after what felt like a pretty disastrous round 1 matchup and then round 3 unit drop. Round number 7, we get double fortress picked up immediately from my opponent, which is probably going to be something like fortress AA. Very, very powerful button to click, especially when you get it practically for free. Stormcallers here don't look too bad. I could also go for the hounds if I want to have a little bit of extra chaff on the ground and chaff clear. But into the spiders, I'm not sure what's best. Could go for a Vulcan too, if I want to try and just go for Vulcan plus oil, although I already used my oil, so that's not really a play I could go for, sadly. And yeah, Fortress, I guess I could pick up myself if I really want to. We could go for some battle attacks. I do run range and overload. The more I think about it, it's likely just Stormcaller. That seems like the highest kind of power play, tempo play for the given turn. Level 2 storms deal a lot of damage, and if I'm expecting Fortress, then I've got a lot of good targets to shoot at. And yeah, that is going to be what I pick up. Wraith here gets a level, bunch of levels on the Phoenixes as well. Those should be worth picking up. Opponent grabs some Mustangs with range immediately to try and deal with the Wasps that I went for. Doesn't have too many just yet though, but also is now running the anti-air barrage, which will help getting rid of some of these lower level Phoenixes as well as the Wasps. I add another pack in front here to try and distract even more. An opponent is starting to add some Scorpions to the board. I did mention it, but I don't think this will be good enough to deal with these level 3 heavy armor steel balls. They can tank 3 shots from that Scorpion, so yeah, there we go. 2 of them went down, but 2 more survive, and that's now a level 3 tower. Still will go down. 5 seconds of debuff going our way. That looks like pretty decent timing there. Hopefully we'll be able to kind of stop our tower from going down. Stormcallers are trying their hardest, although it does look like we'll be losing our tower. That's 9 seconds of debuff. Maybe I should start leveling it, but up to now I didn't really have a reason to do so. Steel balls again though might clutch this up. Trying to get to tower, sorry. And we have the Wraith now still alive during the debuff. Can it get rid of the marksman? It can. And that means it'll soon be level 3. We also keep chipping away at our opponent. 1300 hit points remaining now. And a quick pickup there for both of us, as my opponent goes for the nano repair kit, and I believe that I pick up a heavy armor for the steel balls here in the middle. I also decide to go for EMP on my Stormcallers, because if I can hit some of these tarantulas, turn off their techs, if I can hit the fortresses, turn off the AA, then that's already going to be quite useful. And now we decide to go for more steel balls. I go for range first. Reason that I buy more steel balls here is, well, honestly, there's quite a lot of good targets to lock onto. Bunch of spiders. Honestly, steel balls are good into fortress as well. The only scary thing, I guess, would be the Scorpion, but for now, I think the steel balls are doing well enough, and I only need to win 1 round, maybe 2. So playing for tempo makes a lot of sense. Opponent does have some scary items on the fortresses though, and they are close to leveling. Could pose some problems later on. We get more Mustangs and now Missile Interceptor being clicked. So opponent really does not want these Stormcallers to connect, which I can understand. They did pretty well last turn. And it somewhat nullifies my investment into the EMP. But look at these steel balls. Level 4 tower now on the right side. Opponent really doesn't like me taking it. But again, if you have steel balls, leveling tower is just not going to cut it for your opponent. You can keep taking it. And even though the debuff is not going to be that meaningful, this left tower that you're pushing into is often going to be unleveled, and that one is worth taking. So I often just like to keep pressuring that side of the board. Just take the tower, and then hopefully you'll be able to make use out of the other tower that you're going to be running into. Steel balls here are going to take another tower. That Wraith sitting very safely into the background. Only some Mustangs left, and as the marksmen are now starting to go down, at least the Wraith should survive. Steel balls, I mean, some of them are still full health, so looks like those will be able to live as well, and that's going to be a little bit more chip damage, but at this rate, I might need 3 or even 4 rounds, as we only deal 400 damage there. Now, round number 9, we get more unit reinforcements. Typhoon here doesn't look too bad. It's a lot of deployments. Opponent decides to go for the Saber and sells it. Look at the amount of money he has. 2.3k there at the start of the round. I just opted to go for the bodies because a little bit of extra chaff gear is nice, and Typhoon also can just be a little bit annoying to kill. Although my opponent's fortresses shouldn't care about them too much. And opponent also does have 1 Scorpion for now. Other option would maybe be Sledgehammer or I guess sell, but I felt like getting 3 deployments was just more valuable. Phoenixes, by the way, might need some range, although with the Forte A, it could also be worthwhile to simply click Energy Shield. Again, we're going to go for this beacon. This time around, I'm trying to really focus this Scorpion. Don't want the Steel Balls to kind of ignore the Scorpion, lock onto tower, and get shot in the side. Still haven't clicked 8 gun, which might be a good pick. Instead, I decided to go for energy absorption here, trying to keep my Steel Balls alive. And now suddenly we see more Scorpions being picked up. So triple Scorpion plus range. Opponent realizing that these Steel Balls are a bit of a menace. I did pick up even more Steel Balls. Of course, we are starting to loan now. And we pick up that temp speed, temp range, very important techs. Especially for the Wraith. Just gotta try and stay out of dodge if we can. Marksman there is locked on, but keep in mind it's only level 1 for now. Scorpion there, trying to work away at our Steel Balls, but with the Absorb we should be able to heal up somewhat. Left side though, looks to be collapsing. Yeah, these fortresses looking rather menacing. So many big units on the board. The Steel Balls are really going to have their work cut out for them. And with 9 seconds of debuff, this could be a disaster. Yeah, that Scorpion there is locked on. Okay, doesn't manage to fire another shot, but we don't have that many units left alive. Wraith at least will live. But with the Fortress AA there and another tower debuff, it doesn't look like we'll be winning the round here. And in fact, we'll be taking tons and tons of damage. Are we dead? Okay, we are still alive. 101 hit points remaining. But it is somewhat do or die in this scenario. And here we get photon emission offered. And I'm thinking to myself, that looked horrendous. Opponent already has Scorpions, has fully teched Spiders, has the Fortresses, has the Mustangs with Intercept. I mean, this just looks like a better late game board than what my comp could ever hope to achieve. And that means I need to win through cheese. The only thing I can try and do here is go for a Hail Mary, try a gut shot, and win that way. My opponent is at 722, so that's my best course of action. And, well, there is a bit of a classic gut shot thing that you can do in Mechabellum. And it involves a level 2 factory. This thing is insanely beefy. And with something like armor enhancement, it becomes even tankier. And when you have the photon spell on top of it, that is even more stats that the opponent will have to chew through. And considering the opponent only had ranged Scorpions, no double shot, acid of course wouldn't have mattered because I had photon, I wasn't too convinced he'd be able to get through this. And so what you'll see me do is go for launcher overload instead. Okay, so opting not to go for the armor enhancement here. I think it would have been worth going for. Instead I pick up a crawler by the looks of it. Trying to make sure that this doesn't get insta-locked, but I think I should have just picked up the armor and not caring about the deployment there. We do get the defense enhancement, but yeah, 337,000 hit points is what this has. Shoots every 0.9 seconds with all of its 4 guns. And let's see how this goes. Look at all of these units that are locked onto it. Only some of the units here are basically free to do what they want. We also do beacon away from that tower. It is level 4. Trying to avoid it and just punch through to the left. Maybe we can get a tower debuff there and then clean up the remainder of the units. War Factory still going. About 15% hit points remaining. Can we get to tower before it goes down? Slowly we're whittling down the enemy forces. Factory will finally fall, but we do get the 9 seconds of debuff there. And look at this rogue steel ball on the right side. Absolutely carrying the fight. Getting rid of all of the opponent's units. And we still have Stormcallers left alive. A couple steel ball packs. That absolutely king Wraith that we had on the right side. And so we do manage to close out this game at last. This was quite a close one. Yeah, had to rely on the factory there to end it. I think the only way my opponent could have dealt with this is if he foresaw that this was coming. So probably if he clicks double shot or something like that, he would have been able to deal with this. Just needs to kill this as fast as possible. But yeah, exciting game. I definitely was not favored in the early rounds. That marksman drop, brutal into the Wraith, but we managed to play around it. And yeah, that early pack with the quick supply, very, very scary indeed. Keep in mind, my opponent also did make 450 resources throughout the match with the super supply that he picked up. So we were fighting a bit of an uphill battle, but we managed to make good use out of it. I think it does show you how good steel balls can be in a crossfire like this. They don't really care about tower level ups too much. So with the right pack of units, with a Wraith like this and a little bit of investment to protect this pack, you can get some meaningful tower debuffs. And I think that that's what managed to win us the game overall, taking a lot of those rounds in the mid game. Anyway, if you like this video, please leave a like. Let me know what you thought down below. And have you played some Ball Wraith? Do you like it? Just let me know. If you want to see me play live, please do check me out on Twitch and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with my latest content. With that being said, take care guys and see you in the next video. Bye bye.